Tanin Auto Electronix again. Today we're working on a Nissan GT-R. Common issues, as you see, are failed lighting. Typically it starts on the right side with the fuel, the temp, the gear shift indicator. Then it'll kind of go towards the left. This is a common issue with a lot of Nissans and Infinitis. You'll have this similar issue across all models. So we're going to show you how to take this out and send it in for repair. Also, we can do color changes. This one I believe we're just putting back to stock lighting, but we can change the display color, the backlighting color, all sorts of different things for you. So next video will show, the next portion of the video will show how to remove it. Alright, on with the removal of the cluster. So first step, you want to take off this side panel. Set that down. This bottom plastic portion will attach down here. This just pops off. Then you'll see the hood release down here has two 10mm bolts that go through these two holes and attach to this metal part. So you have to remove those two. Once you do that, this bottom plastic panel will pop out. It's only held in by these two bolts. Once that's off, you'll have a metal plate bolted underneath here with four 10mm bolts, same as the hood release. So here's these four here, and then the two for the hood release. Once this is out, it'll give you some more room underneath to get the bolts for the cluster out. Those bolts are these longer bolts here, four, also 10mm. And those, you'll see the empty holes right here. There's one, two, and then on the other side as well. So you might need an extension or a wrench to get into that one closest to the driver. Once that's complete, the cluster itself will be loose, and at this point you have two options. You can either take the steering wheel out and off, because the cluster is connected to this little garnish piece here. Or the second option is obviously you disconnect this leather portion from the cluster, and you'll see it's secured on these little pins here, and then you'll see I put one little there's like a little retainer. I put that back on there so you can see that. So basically you take the retainers out and then the leather piece drops down. Once you put it back in, these little retainers hold the leather piece to the cluster. So this will have you avoiding removing the whole wheel, because in order to get this top plastic piece off, which is part of this leather piece, you have to remove the wheel to gain access to the screws underneath. So the cluster is out right now. All we have to do is remove the two plugs, or one plug in the back, and that's easy if you put the steering wheel all the way towards the driver and down. And that's it. You don't want to send in this plastic piece to us. We just need the cluster. So once you remove the cluster, you'll see screws that you can remove this giant piece, because this will just add to the shipping cost, and this could potentially get broken. So we'll perform the repair, and then the next video portion you'll see is the cluster back installed and functioning. Alright, we have the cluster reinstalled, and I just want to show you the step where you have to remove the steering wheel. In the event you cannot reattach the clips that secure the leather to the cluster, like I mentioned earlier, you'll have to remove the airbag and then the steering wheel to gain access to the screws that hold this piece on, which are connected to the leather piece. So there's two knockouts, one on each side, that secure the airbag. They're T27 security bits, so they have a little post in the center. It's not just a standard T27. Once those are out, then you can pull the airbag, pop straight out. Here's the screw hole for it. Then you'll need a little pick to raise these black retainers up before you remove them from the airbag. So once you remove the black piece, you'll see this just gently pops out, and the airbag will gently come to a rest down below, like so. Obviously you want to disconnect the battery in this situation. Don't want anything to happen. That's a 19mm bolt. It would probably be wise to mark the nut and the stud, just so you know, and you can get it back on. Oh, not the nut, but mark the steering wheel under the nut and then the stud. Obviously you want to set it straight first before you do this, so when you put it back on, it'll be in the same position. So once this is removed, you have better access to this panel, and then you can reattach the clips and then put it all back together that way. So whichever way is easier, faster. If you have small hands, the clip method might be easier and not remove any of this. But again, this probably only takes 5 to 10 minutes to pop off, and you can gain access. So one more video after this, we'll get all together and then power it on and make sure everything works. Alright, you'll see the wheel is off, and the shaft here actually has a notch in it, and so does the wheel. So if you just align the notch with the notch in the wheel, you'll be good to go. You'll notice the clock spring here is straight. Make sure this goes back in the same, don't install it upside down or rotated. Here are those 2 screw holes that you need to access, right here and right here. So now this top part comes off. It's actually part of the whole cluster assembly. So now this can be, those tabs in there can be put in easily, because it's very difficult to get in there underneath and then push the tabs on, the little washers. So we'll do that. Obviously installation is opposite of removal. You don't have to mess with anything else down here. It's just these 2 screws, and then this pops off. Alright, here you'll see the cluster upside down, removed from the car. Now this trim panel, you'll see what I'm talking about here. This little leather portion attaches to the cluster with these little washer rings. There's 5 of them total. And sometimes, if you have the right tools, small enough hands, you can get these on from underneath the dashboard. But like I just showed you, if you remove the wheel, this piece comes off entirely, and it's a lot easier to get out. And I'm not sure. Looks like this piece also pops out of here. So this is a third way of doing it. So you'll see that pops out. So in actuality, you might not even have to remove the wheel, but I just wanted to show you all methods involved here. Here's this trim piece back on the wheel, and then you'll see the little holes on this trim panel that hold this side of the leather piece to the trim panel, and then the metal retainers hold the the leather to the cluster. So you'll see how this works out here. So if you're able to gain access to this, it's a lot easier if you can just pop this whole thing off entirely, then you don't have to worry about any of this. But worst case, this is what it looks like. And best case, this just pops out and cluster removes as normal. You don't have to touch this piece at all. So I'll get this back installed, and we will show you the end result. Alright, time for startup. You'll see now everything's working correctly. The lighting that was failed before now looks pretty good. Let's try and get in a darker area here for you. So that's it. The cluster's repaired, back installed in the customer's car. Hopefully he'll be happy with the results. You're going to save a lot of money doing a repair with us versus buying a new cluster at a dealership. We're going with another person that says they can do it, but if they mess up, this is a very expensive cluster. So you're best off sending it to us. We have experience in this. We've done a lot of these clusters. And don't forget, if you don't like the white color, if you want blue instead, or if you want your display to be blue or any other variation of colors, we can do that too. So find us on TaninAutoElectronics.com. We have chat available on our website. We're on Facebook, Instagram, all that good stuff. So thanks for watching. Hope you learned something. And subscribe and watch some more of these videos. Thanks.